con el Star Citizen Live, que en esta ocasión se llama Haciendo
Hey, everybody.
Montañas.
This is an audio test. This is the sound of my voice. Hey, Patrick, what does your voice sound like?
Hi, Jared. This is what my voice sounds like. What's up?
Not much. We're just seeing if your voice is roughly the same level.
Para quien no conozca, los Star Citizen Live son shows que hacen los viernes en los que se pueden hacer preguntas al desarrollo. Mientras van haciendo cositas, pues se pueden mandar preguntas en directo o también a través de Spectrum y luego las vas respondiendo en directo.
What's your favorite Pokemon, Patrick?
Holy shit, my favorite Pokemon. Mudkip.
Mudkip?
Yeah, man.
Why Mudkip?
I don't know. I've seen too many memes with Mudkip.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, guys, that's our audio test. We're going to get started in just a few seconds.
Pues ahí vamos. A ver qué se cuentan. A ver dónde ponen los Pirineos. Madre mía. Buen hablarse. A través de estos shows nos enseñan cosas sobre todo también que están por llegar, ¿no? Es interesante.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode nope. See, I almost did the wrong show there. Of Reverse the Verse. Nope, it's one of those
God,
movies.
Jared. Come on.
That really wasn't on purpose.
Confundiendo,
That's me not knowing the name of the show. Star Citizen Live Gamedev, Making Mountains. On the show, if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, we have a couple different formats. This week we are on our Gamedev format, which is where we are going to hang out with one of our developers, our designers.
Dice que hoy están en la versión de desarrollador, o sea, el formato de desarrollo y van a quedar con un desarrollador para a través del proceso ver cómo ellos trabajan y demás.
Joining me on the show this week is no stranger to Star Citizen Live, Mr. Patrick Gladys. Patrick, how you doing?
All good. Fantastic.
Do you know the name of the
This
show?
time from home. Huh?
Do you know the name of the show? Because I don't, apparently.
Star Citizen Live.
Star Citizen Live. All right. So, Patrick, you are a member of the Planet Content Team, the Planetary Tech Team.
Bueno, este es un miembro de las personas que se dedican a hacer los planetas y demás. Y de hecho, pues lo más gordo que tuvimos fue que hicieron ya las lunas de Microtech que estáis viendo ahora, las hicieron en apenas 2 semanas, las 3.
The Environment Art team from the Germany office. And we almost exclusively handle all the things organic, right? So that means planets, geology, vegetation. And since we are the content team that almost exclusively works with all of that stuff or produces all of these things.
Está hablando de que prácticamente en su equipo lo que se dedica es en exclusividad a producir lo que es el tema orgánico, ¿no? Planetas, superficies en lunas y demás.
Tech. And so it's basically a ping pong game between the two of us, you know, the engineers and us, and this is how we operate.
Right. And the last time we had you on the show, we were painting planets. We were using the new painting tools to show how we can cover the surface of a planet. There's going to be some aspect of that involved today. So just in case, for people who have joined the project since then, or who didn't see your wonderful panel at CitizenCon about it, before we get into this, give us a brief primer. What does it mean to paint a planet?
¿Qué significa pintar un planeta, no? Que nos
Painting a planet meant something else a year ago than what it does by now. As you know, we are constantly pushing Planet Tech forward and all the features that are coming with it. So painting a planet means to first actually do an artistic paint pass, which means applying color to the planet, and then what it means as well is applying all the other pieces of content that are necessary to complete a planet as well through painting. And as I said, when we had the Star Citizen live stream last time.
Me estaba escribiendo que pintar un planeta viene siendo pues lo que es dar color al planeta y aparte de poner todos esos recursos necesarios que también se consideran como la pintura, como puede ser en realidad rocas, árboles y demás, creo que también se puede incluir lo que sería la pintura del planeta, como que tienen una herramienta que permite hacer ese tipo de... Una brocha, por así decirlo, mágica, ¿no? Que permite rellenar ese contenido de pues, los elementos orgánicos que cubren un planeta por encima.
What we will mostly focus on will be the height map creation, though.
Okay. Now, we've talked a bit about in ISC over the last quarter, showcasing through sprint reports and stuff, how the painting tools have been evolving, even since we showed it last time. What are some of the improvements that have been made over the last year at this point?
The biggest improvement probably will be a much simpler and more compact design of those painting tools, which means that whenever we do these painting passes, and I told you, that all individual pieces of content have to be applied or had to be applied separately. With that simpler design, we basically pack everything into one single brush. So it's basically a reduction like 4 or 5 times quicker, when we had to do.
Me está diciendo que las mejoras que se hicieron con respecto al año pasado, la herramienta de pintura de planetas, que sobre todo es el hecho de que ahora pueden combinar todo en una simple brocha, que con una simple brocha pueden ya, pues... sabemos que los planetas tienen una serie de características que son temperatura, altura, pues humedad y demás. Y mediante esos parámetros pueden definir pues cómo va a estar coloreado, qué tipo de colores va a haber ahí o incluso qué tipo de vegetación basado en los recursos de ese propio planeta, ¿no? Y eso pues con una simple brocha, haciéndolo alrededor del planeta, son capaces de diseñarlo, de desarrollarlo.
Much more dynamic, so we won't have to do tedious reworks and repaints of something whenever we want something changed. We can simply pick another color and we'll automatically update all over the planet. And this will save us, as I said, lots and lots more time.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Claro,
already
además,
pretty...
en caso de que quieran cambiar una cosa específica, como puede ser un color, pues cambiarán ese color y se cambiará por todo lo que es a lo largo de todo el planeta. O sea que se hace mucho más fácil la tarea de pintar los planetas, ¿no?
Can't really be that fast, and it's like now we've made it even faster and less labor intensive, and the results have gotten better. You correct me if I'm wrong because I am the layman here, but when I look at the new results, when I'm looking at the before and after shots, between the painting with the new tools today versus the painting with the tools that was done just a year ago, it seems like there's a much better diversity in the elements. You see a much better breakup between the rocks and the plants and the various foliage and stuff and the different ground coverings. The textures seem to be greatly improved. I'm not imagining that, right? The textures, like the gravel textures and stuff we do, and I showed this on ISC, and I was that the gravel textures alone seem to be way more detailed now than they used to be. Am I imagining this, or am I right?
No, actually not. We have actually gone through, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, and we have reworked every single terrain texture that we had before and replaced them with, I think it was 80 or 90 new ones that are not just reworked, but they are based on realistic data, like photogrammetry data. It is actually photos.
Que están comentando discordando de que le parece que ha cambiado muchísimo todo lo que son las texturas de los planetas, de cómo se combinan unos biomas con otros, de cómo se combina lo que son las piedras del terreno, todo lo que es las texturas del terreno en general, que se ven muy mejoradas. Y le pregunta al desarrollador si se está imaginando esto realmente. Y dice que no, que realmente que es así, que hay una mejoría muy grande y que de hecho han retrabajado pues un montón de texturas en Star Citizen. Se habla de que han metido entre 80 y 90 texturas nuevas al juego, ¿no? Y que además no solo eso, sino que a la hora de no es solo que sea de una cosa realista, sino que realmente están sacadas de datos reales, de terrenos reales para dar ese detalle que quieren dar a Star Citizen.
One important aspect that probably not many people think of right away when we talk about it or mention it like this, but a speed increase for us means that we have more time to iterate, right? If I have to do one paint pass instead of 5 paint passes, that means I have 5 times as much time or 5 times longer to spend on this content and really polish it out until it works the way I wanted to, and spend more time raising quality, polishing things out, tweaking things, adjusting, and so on.
So the process of making it faster and making it better goes a long way towards one of the long-standing questions of how are we going to make every planet and every moon that we've set out to make. It's this this growth curve of as the tech improves and as things get better and things.
Aquí está discordando, está comentando el desarrollador que han conseguido pues hacer las cosas 5 veces más rápido de las que hacían antes. Y que cada vez pues van mejorando más en velocidad a la hora de poder hacer planetas, lunas y demás, y que esto es una manera de responder a esa gente que a veces pregunta de cómo van a conseguir hacer todos esos planetas que tenían pensado incluir en el juego, si cómo lo van a conseguir. Y dice, pues gracias a la tecnología que se va desarrollando, que cada vez hace esos procesos más eficientes y más rápidos.
We've set the table enough. We've recapped a bit. We've caught up with other things. Today you said we're exploring height map stuff. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you for a bit. If you're watching live on Twitch, remember you can submit questions with the word question in capital letters surrounded by brackets, and then our community management team will pull it out and send it on to us. Remember that Patrick is an environment artist for planets and stuff. So if your question is about when will this game feature come online, this wasn't the show for that. If it's when will space stations get this, he doesn't work on space stations. It's the planet side.
Claro, que si le queremos hacer preguntas, que podemos
side
enviarle preguntas, pero relacionadas con el entorno de planetas, ¿no? Que es a lo que se dedica.
Today. So Patrick, if you want to share your screen, I'll turn it over to you and I'll let you drive for a little bit.
All right.
Que lo voy a hacer la primera pregunta, de hecho.
So, do you see my screen?
In a second, Zoom is put it on the wrong screen. There we go. Now we see your screen.
Oh, good. You see Substance Designer?
Yep.
Fantastic. All right. So, as you already said, Jared, we are going to take a look at a bit more like an in-depth look when it comes to height map creation. Some of these things changed as well. You have talked about the CitizenCon demo that we have done in 2000, I think by the end of, it was the end of 2018, I think so, where we showed off the process here. But since then, a lot of things changed, and it has to do with the swap from V3 to V4. And yeah, we thought let's have a bit of fun. Let's create one of these height maps from scratch, and by the way, explain some of the changes that have happened. How it.
Bueno, lo que van a hacer ahora, lo que llaman height maps, que son mapas que tienen pues bastante más calidad y altura, además, como lo estáis viendo, de los mapas que teníamos antes, de los mapeados que teníamos antes. Y para que no sepa qué es esto, pues ya hemos visto varias veces cómo utilizan esta herramienta. Esta herramienta consiste en que mediante una forma básica, a ver si la podemos ver otra vez, mediante una forma básica, como tenemos aquí, consiguen enlazar otra variación y otra variación y otra variación y otra variación, y además pueden encadenarlas como con esquemas, ¿ok? Como con líneas, hasta que sale un producto final deseado. Entonces ellos tienen la base y aquí van metiendo texturas, aquí otra modificación, aquí saturación, aquí mezcla de no sé qué, aquí mezcla no sé cuánto, hasta que al final de todas estas líneas pues puede salir un cuadro final que se convierte en esto que estamos viendo aquí.
Version of Microtech that I have here, and if I fly around, you can see that I have my blob paraboloid shape on the planet already.
Looks very natural.
Looks very natural, right? But this is usually, or one of the many ways that you could start with. What you can see though is that how the color is distributed. If you look at all the other height maps around it, you have decent, visuals. It kind of all makes sense. You can see that there are mountains and then there are valleys and they're filled with some gravel and such, and it all follows the shapes nicely. And So the same thing happens for this shape, but you can see how this flatland here that has this swirly pattern to it kind of creeps up our half sphere here. And it has to do with how our height maps blend together. It's not like we can simply produce or throw in this height map texture and it will always be the exact same or this exact cutout and visual. Because a lot of things happen in the editor on top, right? That might influence the visual or the look of our height maps. Let's take a look over here. You can see that this blob appears many more times all over the planet. And since it's really a geometrical shape, the data that you can see on it looks kind of janky right now.
Claro, dice que como que podemos ver esa forma repartida por toda la superficie y como vemos que la forma es demasiado geométrica que a la hora de aplicarle la tecnología del planeta que se ve bastante cutre.
See that, sometimes these shapes blend together. Sometimes we get multiple frequencies of these things blending together and forming entirely different formations. And this is something we have to take into account. But it's also the beauty of our planet tech in general, because from one height map, by shifting it around and making it blend with itself and blend with all the other surrounding height maps, we get very, very nice happy accidents.
Claro, está diciendo de que una de las cosas que tienen que tener en cuenta es que cuando van poniendo sus formas, a veces se juntan con otras y se mezclan. Y que tienen que tener cuidado con esto, pero asimismo, al mismo tiempo, eso es la magia de la tecnología que tienen desarrollada, porque eso hace accidentes muy felices, ¿no? De que si esta bola se mezcla con otro tipo de formas o con otro tipo de formas y sucesivamente, pues que si bien hay que tener cuidado, también se forman cosas muy interesantes, ¿no?
In this case, because, okay, I won't get into too crazy technical details here, but if you look at this one, I have changed the values of it slightly, so the dark is gone, right? So why did I do that? If the pixels here on the outside of our blob were dark, it means that the height map on the planet surface would actually be pushing down. But if we want a flat mountain that is simply just bumping up, then we have to constrict it to a gray color value.
Están diciendo que si la forma del reborde es negra, que esto hará que sea para abajo, que sea un hoyo, ¿vale? Que sea un hoyo. Pero que para que esto sea plano y que salga para arriba, tienen que llevarlo a un tono grisáceo, como estamos viendo aquí, que es la forma de trabajar, ¿no? En este caso, si es negro, como vimos ahí, estaría hundido para abajo. Y para que salga para arriba tienen que ponerle grisáceo, ¿no? Que es como funciona, como reconoce el programa, si tiene que estar hundido o levantado.
No. I'm a professional.
Oh, that's our other face.
I'm risking it, right? All right. So I have just added.
Oh, cuando le puso el pezón dijo, no, soy un profesional, me estoy arriesgando con esto, tal, y lo quitó.
The gray is our default base plane, and now that I have added these dark pixels, you can see that this blob
Ahí
here
tenemos la parte
is
negra.
represented, and it actually bumps down. Might not be super visible, but oh wait, I forgot this one. So now you can clearly see that it bumps down, right? So this is fundamentally how we have to think of our textures and all the colors or the values in our height textures. This is actually something, it's not specifically to us. This functionality is very, very common in most game engines, and other games are using it precisely the same way. So yes, let's revert this one back. And you can see it updating.
Right. And if you made the second blob there a lighter color, it would be another
Joder, monkey.
Yes, precisely.
Joder.
A lighter color. Yeah, you could easily, for example, add multiple elements. Like, for example, I'm increasing the tiling here. And now I have 4 of them on one texture. So what happens if I export this, right? I'm just going to export this to the engine right now. And then you already see that something happened, but the height map didn't update, and it has something to do with our planet. We have to reload the planet. That goes quite quickly. And we do have our 4 blobs. And the cool thing is all the color and everything else is adjusting dynamically to it within a second.
Se está ajustando dinámicamente.
So I don't have to manually go in or
Así que con los cambios que ha hecho no tiene que ir manualmente no tiene que manualmente cambiar nada porque ya automáticamente se regula el color con los cambios que ha hecho, ¿no?
Quickly swap out this thing with anything I like. But yeah, these are just a couple like very simple geometrical shapes. So how can we make this more interesting? Just to also demonstrate how we could attempt to if it really was like a single mountain like this one or a single large hill or something, how could we make this more interesting? We have a couple nodes in Substance Designer that allow us to detail these things out. For example, like a terracing node. Most of these nodes, and there are a couple of them, we have built ourselves to simplify or speed up the process and have things that allow us to simply put in the details that we need or like. Other games or
a la hora de poner estos efectos y demás, ellos también pueden hacer una especie de nodos que modificaría las propiedades de esto y que han hecho ellos tienen algunos de ellos hechos por ellos mismos que reutilizan o usan para acelerar el proceso cuando consiguen algunos efectos o algún conjunto de efectos que les llama la atención, pues lo guardan y luego lo reutilizan, ¿no? Para otras cosas, por así decirlo.
Instead of diverting back to another software, and that keeps our pipeline quite tidy.
And nodes are really useful for going back and identifying and tracking changes that happened, 6, 7, 8, 9 steps ago.
Exactly, and it's all dynamic. Yeah. So this looks more like a cake now, but let's export this one.
Yeah.
So I've added terracing now, right?
Like a cake.
See, this looks odd, but if I reload the planet, 1 second, blop, and we have our cake on the planet. And you can see how the color again automatically adjusts, and the bedrock is automatically sitting on or being applied where the slopes are. But you can also see that there's this part here where it's it's not, these layers are not continuous. And that's something I mentioned before, is the surrounding height maps, they start blending into that height map in order to fuse all of the elements together, to not have any weird seams or cutoffs or hard repetition. We blend all of the data together so that in the end, it looks like a nice, continuous, consistent landscape. So this is still quite geometric.
Mm-hmm. Although I've seen things like that before. I grew up next to a quarry, actually, as a kid. And
oh, nice.
And the mountain, what started as a mountain at one point ended up being a very terraced looking thing as they were slowly, systematically ripping into it. So I've actually seen that exact structure, or very similar to that structure in real life. Not naturally occurring, but yeah.
Oh, let's make this more similar to what you know then, because I can invert the entire thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a little more quarry-like, but still very geometric and unnatural looking.
La cosa y tal, porque dice
and
que Lando
I
ha
have
visto
to
algo
adjust
parecido
these
a la vida
values
real.
because it's still bumping up and not down, so
hecho
that would actually result in a...
O sea, hecho por la mano del hombre, pero...
Tweaking these...
The quarry I was talking about was actually a mountain. It was when I was 5, it was very big, and when I was 10, it was smaller. When I was 15, it was smaller, and I actually drove past it about 2 years ago for the first time in a decade, and it's almost completely gone now. They've almost completely just destroyed the mountain.
Claro, ya le está diciendo que realmente no, eso era lo que había visto era una montaña, porque él se refería, por ejemplo, a una mina abierta, pero lo que se refería a Jared era precisamente una montaña al revés, o sea, Una mina abierta, pero de que empezaban a picar la montaña desde arriba y que con el tiempo pues se fue yendo, ¿no? Pero bueno, un comentario sin más.
They look more like this. So what I have done now is I basically inverted the entire thing and defined the ranges here so that we have our gray default plane, and all the other values here are just getting darker and darker and darker, which means it's bumping down.
Claro, está diciendo que con el cambio de oscuro, vemos como cada vez se va metiendo más y más y más a medida que está más oscuro, ¿no? Por esa propiedad que tienen de la herramienta para diseñar.
It is actually the ocean level. We have bumped down our height map so much that we are hitting, that we're going past the ocean level.
All right, so the system...
Dice que le han metido tanta caña para abajo que en realidad este es el nivel de océano y que por eso se ve esa textura, ¿no?
A way to cut the ocean out of this? Because there's no ocean around you, obviously.
We have a method of cutting in holes into the terrain specifically for caves and such. I think it also works for the ocean, but generally we don't do that because we simply, by adjusting the entire elevation of the planet, we decide where the ocean should show up and where it should not show up. Yeah.
Claro, están preguntándole si tienen algún tipo de herramienta para poder cortar o hacer un hueco en el océano. Y dice que en realidad tienen alguna herramienta parecida para como cuando hacen las cuevas, pero que en realidad en este caso lo que suelen hacer, que lo podrían hacer, pero que lo suelen hacer es simplemente ajustar el nivel del océano, el nivel del mar en el planeta hasta que consigan el efecto deseado.
Adjust that noise, that frequency that we are adding to these edges here to produce a more realistic result.
Para verse, bueno, ya os imagináis el resultado, ¿no? Por la imagen.
It's basically taking the existing information and starts pushing these things in and outwards based on a noise, based on a mathematical noise, something like this.
Okay.
Utilizan una especie de ruido matemático,
something similar
matemático que dijo, y vemos allí pues cómo sería algo como eso, ¿no? Que están viendo, que se lo aplican a lo que es la textura que tienen creada, o sea, el círculo que tienen creado.
And I can, for example, put in whatever, really. Let's do it like this. So I have this noise up here, and I can put it into the vortex node. And it's driven by this bottom noise. And by adjusting this, you can see that I can start swirling and moving the existing information around. So this is something very cool that you can do. Very interesting alien or even lava formations with. I hooked it up.
Claro, están diciendo que mediante ajustando pues la intensidad y la suavidad que pone por aquí, o estas dos cosas, al mezclarlas vemos cómo pueden cambiar las formas, incluso que sirve para poder hacer movidas alien o incluso formaciones de lava, ¿no? Con estas texturas.
Something is flowing or something has been pushing these things around.
Or like it looks like a dried lava bed to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example. Like lava had been through here before, and it's all dried and cooled.
So just for the fun of it, let's put it in here. So this is looking very, very harsh,
guapo,
right?
Chaval.
Because we didn't adjust our ranges.
Guapo.
But if I do so, if I give it a more reasonable range to live in,
yo quiero volar por ahí.
I can constrict it, maybe even further, because these shapes are quite intense. Okay, so now let's export that.
Que ahora está haciendo lava, o sea, así de risas.
And take a look at it here. You can already see the data adjusted. There we go, but the height didn't. So now
o sea, le aplicó eso adjusts, y mira, joder, qué guapo.
There we go. See, I didn't even detail this out at all, but it's giving me quite a funky result. So if we ever were to do a weird alien planet that has these odd shapes due to very...
Dice que ni siquiera tuvo que detallarlo, pero si algún día quisiéramos hacer un planeta alien extraño con estas formas raras, pues que lo podrían hacer, ¿no?
That looks cool.
Yeah, right. It's something that we don't have yet.
It's a
Okay.
good example.
Sí, bueno, las rocas y los árboles no es que las añada eso, o sea, en realidad el
push
planeta en
things
sí
in.
tiene ya unas propiedades, o sea, ya tiene una pintura por encima. Acordaros lo que os comentaba, que según la altura, la humedad y demás, esos valores, pues se definen la vegetación o los objetos que pueda haber ahí y directamente pues se van poniendo de forma automática.
To our little quarry. This is with the landform node applied, so this noise that starts deforming everything a little. And then I hook it up to a sediment node, which adds a little bit of sedimentation on top. So you can see now.
Sedimentación en la... O sea,
It's
un
like
nodo de sedimentación que lo tiene por aquí,
soil
vemos como, pues eso, como parece que
sliding
hay
down a little and accumulating.
desprendimientos o partes caídas, ¿no? Que se ven esas formas redondas gastadas, ¿no?
How we did before with the swirly shapes, we can inflate or deflate this a little to sharpen up some of these features. And then export again and check in the editor. And the cool thing is, someone can be, let's say, Pascal. Pascal is also not unknown. He has been on various shows multiple times, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say he's working on the actual painting of the planet, while I am defining out all the local height data and information, just as we're doing right now.
Claro, dice que además de esta manera, como la pintura se pone de forma automática y como está haciendo ahí sí la forma, ¿no? O sea, él puede dedicarse a hacer la geología de lo que es el lugar, mientras su compañero Pascal puede dedicarse simplemente a trabajar las herramientas de pintura. O sea, él puede detallar, digamos, la topografía del planeta, mientras su compañero define los parámetros para que haya árboles, nieve o lo que sea que tenga que haber, ¿no?
So now that we have applied, huh?
I'm just saying this. I was muttering to myself. This is pretty cool.
And yeah, now since we have applied this noise to this geometrical shape that we had before, and it looks a lot more natural now. This is something similar to the mining pits that we already have on Hearthstone.
No puede haber ningún problema para el planeta de selva. El planeta de selva tiene que salir, zorro, como sea, tío. Eso tiene que salir.
They might not look exactly like this, but they feature similar visuals.
Yeah. I like this one a lot. One of the questions from the chat, how many of your nodes do you have that are custom made or scripted? And do you have a favorite node? Do you have like a go-to node?
Están preguntando por el chat una locura de si tiene algún nodo favorito o algo que tenga scripteado, cuántos tiene, o si hay alguno que diga, pues este es el que me mola y voy casi siempre a él, ¿no?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then there are a lot of nodes that Sebastian did, you know, because he's the techie guy. So these are my non-tech artist nodes that just give me
dice que por un lado tiene los nodos
que
él hace en plan rollo a su aire, pero luego que Sebastian, que es el tipo que hace la tecnología, la herramienta, pues ha hecho montones más, ¿no?
Example, or erosion node.
Bueno, acordaros de que en realidad esto que estamos viendo aquí, o sea, esta persona no deja de ser un artista, ¿ok? Esta herramienta que estamos viendo aquí es proporcionada por una parte del equipo de Star Citizen que se dedica a realizar las herramientas para que los artistas puedan trabajar, ¿no? Y no tengan que estar picando código. O sea, al final los artistas van a jugar al SimCity y los desarrolladores van a proveer esa herramienta, ¿no? Para que ellos puedan hacer ese SimCity.
Putting it into this landform node, and I'm exaggerating the node properties here, and you can see how the existing data gets shifted around. So this is a very cool node, because I can basically make something very terrain-like, or very believable terrain out of just 2 nodes. See how, because the idea behind this node was, how do landmasses form, right? Landmasses form by, constantly, or not constantly, but sometimes being moved around or shifting into one another and deforming and even faulting and all of that stuff. So I thought, like, how cool would it be to just have one node that simply gives you that result in an instant, right?
Yeah.
So this is already quite believable. when it comes to the basic shapes, and now I can take this and further detail it out. But before we do so, let's just simply check it out in the editor, as we always do, because ultimately how it looks like in Substance Designer doesn't interest me that much. I need to know that it really looks great in the editor, right? Oh, so now like one of these happy accidents happened.
Sí, dice que le ha pasado otro accidente feliz
I can
antes de
see
meter la cosa.
my features, but what happened here, right? I can double check here. These values are all like below gray, right? So this thing should be bumping up, but it's bumping down. So I need to adjust that. Maybe adjust the range, just not have it be too extreme. Oh, actually like this, sorry. Okay. And there we go. Now you can see the visuals that I get in the Substance Designer viewport are already highlighting these tips red. That means, you know, they're high. So it's high elevation.
Claro, cuando las marca en rojo
So I
dice
can export this again.
Están muy altas, ¿no?
You know, this is already quite interesting. I don't hate this, right? If I reload again, just by changing these values, I get a completely different visual. Suddenly, like, you know, it's bumping up my landscape. Look how it looks from the top. You know, you can see these forms deforming and shifting into one another. It's quite cool. It's a very good base to work from.
The scale is interesting because when we look at it in Substance Designer, I'm seeing it on like a much more like macro scale. When I see it, when I saw what you were in Substance Designer, I see that and I look at something like that and I expect that to be like an entire mountain range, and then but because this particular height map is only mapped to this one little area here, it's actually a much more condensed thing. Exactly. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly.
Remember when I told you about how our height maps are splattered on the planet, and sometimes if there are two right next to one another, they will be blending together as well. So we can check that out as well here, like simply by flying over and seeing how it all behaves. So look at this. This is the exact same height map, but it sits here multiple times and blends together and forms.
Claro, Discord está preguntándole un poco de cómo sería esto, porque ahora estamos viendo una pequeña porción y que se ve detallado, pero cómo sería esto realmente, que no es capaz de explicarse muy bien que cómo sería esto realmente repartido por todo el planeta y tal. Y el artista le comenta que en realidad que cuando vamos avanzando por el mapa podemos investigar cómo está quedando y cómo se va mezclando con otras, ¿no? Y que lo que tenemos aquí es exactamente lo que puso al principio, pero mezclado o repetido con otras cosas, ¿no?
Want the spruce trees to live on this plane here, and I click in here once, and there we go. Spruce trees. Some of the other things are bleeding in. You can see that has to be adjusted. So
mira, con una simple herramienta puede hacer, o sea, con un simple toque puede hacer que empiece a crecer algo de hierba joven, ¿no? En lo que es la nieve y todo. Es una locura.
And this is without any detail passes, and you can kind of see that here, the data.
Claro, y está advirtiendo de que esto realmente es sin ningún tipo de pase de detalle o de detallado, ¿no?
The wonky color application like this. But again, all of this stuff are the bits and pieces that we continuously look at and be like, okay, how can we improve this? Let's polish this out. Let's improve this. And we are making progress. So all of that stuff that you might encounter on the planet and still looks like, what's happening here? And, you know, we are probably looking at it already and figuring things out for it. But we have our priority lists that we need to work from. So let's take the same mountain, and we said we would like to reuse one of Seb's nodes. This is like a really cool node. Erosion, it really applies, what it says. It applies erosion to whatever you put into it. So let's give it a couple values to work from. Sediment strength 0. Thermal erosion angle, let's go for something like this. And I'm bumping up the iterations here and setting this up. And trying to see what it gives me. See if we can see something in the viewport. Okay. Let's try something. Something is off. I'm gonna try something else.
Okay.
It's no big deal though. It is something. Oh yeah, we can show the dynamic flow. This is also very similar to erosion and quite visible, and doesn't need to render as long. So let's increase the flow depth here. So you can see now that what would happen if you know, rain started having an effect on this height map, and I can hook it up to this flow node. I'm gonna enlarge this here. And you know, white is the peak of our mountains, and then the darker it gets, the lower we go. But you can see that I can dial in this hydraulic erosion, this flow here, as I like. It's a very complex node, very cool stuff. Definitely increase the quality of our existing height maps a lot. So what I can do with this now is I can dial it in subtly, and now pipe it in to our export nodes. And then you get all of this stuff, right? A lot more detail, but what looks like a subtle, you know, like a subtle blend here is actually quite extreme in terms of elevation. So I need to dial it back even more until I get a result that I like. See, this looks a lot healthier now.
Sí, que debido a que le tiene mucha elevación, tiene que todavía darle menos caña.
The player experience is something that we have to really consider at this point as well, because when we create these height maps, we are speaking of, you know, elevation changes and frequencies and also bumpiness. So if I was ever to do something crazy like this, you know, if I would really like our backers to hate us, right?
Sí, me gustaría que nuestros backers realmente nos odiaran, porque tienen que tener en cuenta la experiencia del jugador, ¿no?
You know, have fun driving around in here, right? That's
tener diversión conduciendo por ahí, chaval.
Let's see it.
¿Qué dices?
Oh, you really want to see it?
¿Qué dices,
Oh
loco?
my God.
Let's see it.
You don't. Oh God. Jared is always making me do stuff, guys. It's crazy.
Hey, you're lucky I don't make you do Devil's Tower.
Please don't.
Qué locura,
Please
chaval.
don't hire me for this. Okay. All right. It's quite bumpy. I have dialed it down a lot, but it's quite bumpy. Could probably oh no, this is another height map already. Let's go over here. There it is. You know, so this doesn't work. But it's fine. I mean, we also wanted to talk about limitations and what we can and cannot do, right?
Yes. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing.
No, absolutely not. And we have our strict rules and for our workflows to prevent these visuals.
No significa que porque puedas hacer algo debas de hacerlo, ¿no?
You drive your cyclone through this.
¿Cómo
right?
llevarías
It's
tu
crazy.
cyclone por
It's
ahí?
nuts. This is not enjoyable at all. I mean, rocks
Bueno, que no
are
es
already an issue,
divertido,
right?
depende, o sea,
now, which is great.
enduro, tío, el conducir en enduro ahí rollo,
data, it's
eso mola.
so much elevation data, and the contrast that is happening here, and the Planet Tech picks up all these little things and starts jamming all this data in between these crevices and cracks. So this is something that we should definitely not do, Sveno. We are very, very cautious, but let's go for go for the same thing, but a more healthier approach.
Yeah. No, it's good to showcase that. It's good to showcase that. It's always important to remember that, you know, it's one of the reasons you can't leave a procedural system up entirely to the procedural generation. It's why these things have to be validated by artists.
Claro, está
And,
diciendo, disclosando que esto es el motivo por el cual las cosas no se pueden dejar en plan totalmente procedurales. Tiene que estar validado por un artista, porque si no, pues pueden pasar estas locuras.
Use tools responsibly. And we just showed a very irresponsible use of the tools.
Yeah.
So that was useful. That was good.
Okay, but let's show a more responsible approach, right? So another note, because if we don't detail things out, these areas will look a little flat, and the Planetech needs little pixel variation to pick up on all of these little crevices to achieve things like these, where one biome is creeping in through the crevices of another biome and therefore creating this interesting mix, right? This result right here, for example.
Me está diciendo que no se puede tener como tienen aquí el planeta, que la tecnología planetaria requiere que se le dé un poco de toque a la hora de hacerla creíble, en el sentido de que, como estamos viendo en la zona en la que se veían manchas negras y blancas, porque así vemos como un bioma se mezcla con el otro, ¿no? Esos detalles.
With just the flow, also based on one of Seb's notes.
Darle esa profundidad, digamos, ¿no?
Detailed soil node, which I have built to just.
Lo define como pixel variation, variación de píxeles.
And I can basically decide if I want a simple noise, or if I want it to be more of a dry soil look. So now I can sharpen this up and reduce the opacity here. This is something we have to do individually.
Si quiero que parezca un suelo más seco, pues lo modifica, ¿no? Lo va modificando según cómo quiere que pinte.
Kind of look, right?
Así parece más seco el suelo,
like
¿no?
Maybe before. Yeah, this is without, and this is without some detailed soil application right now. See, it's just these little tiny bumps, but they do make a difference. They absolutely do make a difference, because
claro que sí,
our new painting tool.
Simplemente con estas pequeñas fisuras que realmente sí que hace la diferencia, porque claro, esto al ponerlo, pues debido a cómo está diseñada la herramienta de pintura, va a pintar de forma diferente, entonces va a hacer el ambiente más creíble, menos plano.
No, and in the editor that would be a couple meters apart. So yeah, let's export that again.
Yes, let's get rid of our nightmare terrain.
If you have any questions, I'm going to take them gladly.
Yeah. Folks have been asking if the system allows you to paint a planet and automatically use the correct material based on a planet temperature, size, atmosphere, and stuff, or do you have to go in and set all of those things individually each time?
So it is something that we have been discussing in the team as well. And yes, there is an option. You see that? Okay, let's. I have destroyed. Don't.
We have wrecked.
I have. Yeah.
Right now.
We have wrecked it a little. Yeah, that's fine. If you take a look at this square over here, right? It's something that we have already discussed, right? I can take, for example, the obsidian dark biome and paint it down.
Bueno, esto están.
Each and every corner of this texture resembles specific humidity and temperature situations.
Vale, bueno. Esto es lo que habíamos visto un poco, porque le están preguntando si a la hora de pintar él tiene que hacer ajustes o tiene que definir los parámetros para cada rollo, ¿no? de pintura. Un segundo, teléfono. Ya está. Entonces lo que está diciendo es que cada una de estas esquinas, frío, seco, húmedo y cálido, ¿no? Creo que era la movida. Ahí está. Cold, wet. Claro, esto sería frío arriba, caliente abajo, ¿no? Y luego seco y demás, ¿no? Entonces, según mueva el rollo, según coloree esta zona, ¿vale? Pues vemos que va variando los colores que hay según la altura o según la topografía, porque la topografía también, según la altura, pues tiene modificaciones tanto de humedad como de temperatura y al estar, pues, entonces con esto pueden definir qué tipo de colores, según ese tipo de variaciones, puede tener el planeta, ¿no? Y no se tienen que parar a pintar cada cacho, sino que simplemente rellenando esto, pues el propio planeta sin más va cogiendo color a medida que él va haciendo modificaciones en las montañas y demás.
Adjust the painting all the time and repaint our biomes, and because you can see even after
La de
or
locuras
even
que tiene que hacer
only
esta
this
peña.
local height map here, it already adjusts to the new data, and the same thing is happening globally. So it's the very
O sea, este programa es casi como un juego aparte, ¿no? En realidad, es como si estuvieras jugando un juego. Bueno, voy a jugar a hacer planetas.
do that. Yeah.
So this height map that we've been working on, we've seen that it's in this one place we focus on, but we also have seen that it's replicated in other places.
Yeah.
What's that breakup like? How many different patches are there on a planet? How do you keep these things from being too repetitious? Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
The power of DevTools. You can see that what we have been adjusting and modifying right now is index or patch number 3, right? You refer to it.
¿El tipo de planeta es influido por estudio de proximidad o me estoy flipando? No, no te estás flipando. Compara Hearthstone Dynamics con... O sea, compara el planeta Hearthstone o la luna que hay en Hearthstone con Microtech. Microtech está más alejado, por lo tanto está más frío. Y esto está más cálido. No significa que el Sol tenga una propiedad de influir la temperatura, sino cada planeta tiene su registro, ¿ok? Y ellos lo colocan en... O sea, según la órbita lo ponen en la zona correspondiente. Y claro que va a haber distintos tipos de estrellas. No, no es automático. Lo ponen ellos. Eso lo ponen ellos. No, no, el Sol no tiene la propiedad de dar temperatura, ¿ok? Ellos configuran un planeta para que tenga esa temperatura. Claro, ellos lo hacen a ojo, teniendo en cuenta eso.
You have a preview of all of it here.
Ejemplo, ya te digo, lo tienes en
The
Microsoft
mining
comparado con
pits, you have
Hearthstone.
mountains,
Totalmente
eroded, and
diferente.
all of that stuff, right? So it's a huge library of height maps. All kinds of flatlands, beaches, and so on and so on. So what I can do is simply select that second
Ay, perdón,
patch,
chavales. Sí,
and
que
for
bostezar, se bosteza.
instance, fill it with something entirely different, which is
Let's do mountain billowy.
mountain billowy 02.
That's my favorite.
All right. Let's jump back to our spot.
Oh, Dios mío.
Oh, no, it was actually 3, not 2. Sorry, 3. Whoops. And now turn this off so you can actually see what's happening. And this is a good demonstration of the question that was asked previously. See, these are the billowy mountains, and you can see that the data already adjusted. But if I go back and put in something entirely new, now, blop, see, everything moved with it. Let's take a height map that you guys have actually never seen before. It's not on any of the current planets yet.
Dice que esto no está todavía en ninguno de los planetas, pero es algo que han diseñado, ¿no?
See, I can just go through this library
Para que
and
veamos el
decide,
cambio,
like,
¿no?
okay, what mountains could fit best, right? And I can define, as I've shown before. So you see these funky colors, right? It's 0 to 15. So we have 15 patches, 15 slots that we can fill. So I can decide on a lineup of 15 different height maps. There's a single volcano right here.
Yeah. Now it's 15 different height maps, but each height map is used differently as well.
Qué chulo.
Yeah, we can.
It's not just a repeat every 15. That's cool. Get closer to that. I want to see that.
You can see where bedrock is. Automatically, we get these bedrock assets spawning in and defining out these slopes, because, you know, it is just displacing upwards. So if you want more silhouette from it, you have to put assets on top, which we scatter on top procedurally as we do with anything else. And that's how we can detail these out.
Sorry, before I asked you to zoom in on that, we were talking about how each version of those 15 are still different from each other.
Different height. Yeah, it's 15 unique, individual, completely different height maps.
Yeah, but each version of 3 is not exactly the same as we've seen at the beginning. How does it make each version of height map 3 different?
Okay, so it is the exact same texture every single time, but if I get in that volcano again, then
like when we had that blob at the beginning, some places we had one blob, some places we had two blobs, some places
exactly,
we had blobs merged
and
together.
It's maybe that's not the best. Let's take this one for instance. Not very visible too. Yeah, the blob was probably the best example for that, but fundamentally it's the thing that I've already explained to you. Let's show this one again. So the third patch here is isolated, right? There's no third patch around it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we check this spot, for example, there are two patches next to one another, right? So what we do what the Planet Tech does for us, let's take these mountains, for instance. It takes a height map and then it starts shifting it around. And then it starts blending it with itself. So you will get to see a somewhat...
Claro, aquí está contando, lo que estáis viendo en realidad son representación de modelos de height-map, ¿no? Cada uno de esos números representa cuántos height-maps hay en esa zona. Entonces, al final, lo que hace es que eso pues tiene un tamaño determinado. Entonces, si hay varios juntos pegados de lo mismo, porque están preguntando cómo hacen para que parezcan diferentes y demás, y es un poco lo que nos han contado antes. La tecnología planetaria lo que hace es moverlos, cambiarlos, ¿vale? Modificarlos en plan de girarlos, rotarlos y tal, y también los mezcla entre sí. Entonces el efecto que produce es siempre distinto, o sea, es vastísimo.
Of blended height maps, and everything looks kind of unique.
That's cool. So one version of 3 is blended with 2 and 4, so it looks one way, and then another version of 3 is blended with 14 and 15, so it looks different.
Every height map affects.
Esos son los cuadrados que decían antes.
All the other height maps.
Los cuadrados esos no tienen nada que ver con la temperatura o tal. ¿A qué te refieres con esos cuadrados? Repite la pregunta, Monkey, por si acaso. ¿Te refieres a si esos cuadrados tienen que ver con lo de la temperatura y demás historias?
Yeah, I do have one more thing to show. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, babe. Sí, probablemente sean esos cuadrados, Monkey. Probablemente. Toda la razón, tío. Es posible.
See now.
Monkey bien.
This is, another graph. Let's take a look at this.
Sí, tío.
This one, for example, is utilizing a melt node that we have that kind of streaks through our...
Bueno, lo que está comentando Monkey, para que no tal, es que está pasando que cuando estoy volando con la nave ahora mismo en el PTU, veo como el efecto de que se desplazan los planos a veces. Y claro, en realidad, pues seguramente sea este tipo de bloques que vemos ahí y que eso se ve desplazado, porque a veces hay como un raro... que hace como un raro de textura, ¿no? Entonces probablemente sea eso, sí.
In some updates already.
Now, mind you, we're not going to see Pyro. We're seeing a Pyro height map as applied to Microtech.
Exactly. So you see how small these graphs are and how simple they are, and what kind of what cool results we already get from this. This is really powerful because with just a couple clicks, I can throw a couple nodes, 1, 2, 3, whatever, and then I get a reasonable result from it. So this is what we wanted to achieve. Again, speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Speed and quality.
Qué locura,
And our height maps, like for all the game devs that might be watching out there, our height
Esto
maps
parece
are
una
only
escena que no voy a decir cuál es,
1000 by
pero os
1000,
podéis hacer la idea.
1K resolution, basically. So it's not like we can
mía.
push for crazy amounts of detail.
Sí,
no,
claramente es una escena de algo, ¿no?
Still, our height maps are 2000, roughly 2 by 2, and all the other data is 1 by 1. So it's not like we can push for crazy amounts of detail. So this is
Claro,
this
Ranger.
workflow and this approach we're taking is perfect for us.
Ahí están
But
jugando
let's
la
take a
piragua,
look
tío.
at a more defined graph. You can see that there's a lot more going on. It's it's a decently long substance graph, but it's still super manageable and okay. And this is the result we get from this.
Mhm.
Let's push this one away because we want to focus on that.
Lo que estamos haciendo, cada viernes hacen un programa especial poniendo en contacto a los desarrolladores, artistas y demás gente que trabaja en el proyecto con la comunidad. Entonces, en estas sesiones se puede hacer preguntas y ellos están ahora mismo transmitiendo en directo explicando cómo van a hacer las montañas, la nueva tecnología planetaria, ¿no? Que está por llegar y bueno, pues cómo tenemos hoy en día pintados los planetas y gracias a qué. En este caso, hoy va de esto.
You already mentioned, Jared, is, we can always go back to a node and then change an aspect about it and then generate a completely new height map from this. So let's say I'm super happy with the result and everything works as I wanted to. And now I'm going to work on Pyro and let's say we need 15 of those, right? Because we have 16
Vamos a decir
slots,
que trabajamos
right?
en Pyro, necesitamos
So let's say we
15 de
need
estas,
15
¿no?
of those. Okay, so I can basically be like, okay, I'm going to take this
Y va a pillar eso, ¿no?
and simply, change the seed, a random seed. So it will simply generate a new variation of that very first node. But since that changed, all the other nodes will change as well. And in the end, as you can see now, I'll get a completely different result.
Entonces lo que hace es cambiar la semilla, entonces al cambiar la semilla, la parte inicial, pues todo lo que está detrás cambia también y ahí tenemos un diferente resultado, ¿no?
Plus, this is very, like, by now, this is standard in the entire games industry, procedural materials. This is how most material artists work, but we are applying this to height maps. So now I can, for instance, change this from a basic noise to a billowy noise, and it will again completely alter the look of this height map and give me an entirely different result. I can also flatten it out if I want something flatter. Okay, this is a little too extreme, right?
Pues está chulísimo,
But
tío, como
let's
método muy
say
extremo, está chulísimo.
I'll go down with the octaves and restrict the range to something healthier here, because not all the mountains are using the entire range of our spectrum. And there we go.
Está muy chulo esta mierda,
Just by
tío.
adjusting two things quite quickly, I can produce...
Estos tíos nos van a hacer un universo que... Mira, esto es un culo, tío. Bueno, lo he dicho, mierda.
Which I can do.
Estos tíos van a hacer un universo que te cagas, tío.
Validated on the planet.
Van a hacer un universo bestial, ¿eh?
Oh, I have
Es que lo del culo me ha salido del alma, tío, no
I'm
puedo
going
evitarlo.
to get back
A veces
to
pasa.
it. There it is. Plop. Did I export it? Export again.
Según tengo entendido, los planetas de
And of
Pyro
course, it's
prácticamente
important to
están acabados,
remember
¿no?
This is
No
a height
tienen
map
nada
that's
más
being
de-
designed for the terrain of Pyro and not one that was designed for the terrain of Microtech. So the finished result you're going to see here is not exactly the intended.
No, this is just for demonstration purposes, right? But you can see that
Claro, dice que esto no
parts...
tiene, están aclarando que esto no tiene nada que ver con Pyro, lo que estamos viendo aquí, que simplemente es para el propósito de demostración, ¿ok? Que no nos hagamos ideas en la cabeza.
I can, for instance, now take an obsidian area and paint it in here if I like to, right? And change the entire biome and object scattering that we have on this specific area. And yeah, this is how we go about the creation of height maps. Basically, these procedures, these workflows, going back and forth, validating in Substance, validating in the editor, checking if our biomes are painted down correctly, and if the data, like these streaks here, if it all picks up well, if it's not too noisy, making test drives on these, right? Will people hate us or not? So this is basically how we go about these things. Yeah, this is it. And I think we're done, Jared, right?
Yeah, we're done.
Awesome. Any questions? Any closing?
No, we're out of time. You can stop your screen share.
Okay, cool.
All right, no, that's me.
La verdad es que es la hostia
That's two
esta
of me.
gente.
Let's go back. Hi.
Yeah.
So Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time to be here on the show with us this week. As usual, with Stars in Live, we always like to vacillate between the Q&A shows and the game dev shows where we showcase your process. And I think I really enjoyed it. And I think looking from the chat, the folks really enjoyed taking this look at, just how something as seemingly simple as a height map, as a little 2K texture file, sits at the basis of a whole lot of what they see as the basis of every planet. So that's very cool. As we usually do, we are going to throw the raid to a Star Citizen streamer who's broadcasting right now. I understand it is the Dark Law. So if you're sitting here and you're watching.
Vale, ya se ha acabado el rollo. Van a pasar esto a otro streamer. Voy a cortar y vengo ahora.